Hi, and welcome back to the Struggle Security YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gabriel Agbarucci, and here we normalize struggling in cybersecurity. And today, I want to talk to you about one of my struggles. I want to talk to you about one of my struggles in the form of a question. What I learned from quitting my 150K cybersecurity job. That was almost hard to say. It's almost hard to bring out of myself because, quiet is kept. I don't quit things very often. I almost don't quit anything. In my life, I've pretty much loved to finish things, finish it to the end, whether I struggle through it. But this job, I specifically quit. And I want to share with you some things that I learned from quitting this particular job in cybersecurity. Now, I do want to preface it with this because there's a lot going on in social media and society. Here in the US, we're having something called the Great Resignation, where millennials and other job seekers, these individuals are leaving the job force altogether. They're walking away from their jobs, their high-paying jobs. As a result of the pandemic, we have seen a lot of things happening with the job market. And I think it's a very appropriate conversation. And I want to present to you a struggle of mine about quitting and some lessons that I learned. I want to kind of put a little bit of spin on it. So let's start from it, right? What was this job that I had got? And a lot of times people talk about cybersecurity salaries. People brag about what they got. And a lot of times, and if you guys have seen my previous video, it was on the math that you learned in cybersecurity. You would have known that I came up in a lot of mathematics as an electrical engineering major. And one principle in math, or one principle in mathematics that I was always taught as a young guy, is that you show your work. You show your work. And I don't just want to say that I had that role, but I do want to show you. So I want to show you my job offer right here. This is my job offer. Let me break it down a little bit to you. So this particular role was what you call a cyber network architect or cybersecurity network architect. And this was back in 2018. And I blurred out information that made it very specific to the organization I was working for. And as you see, it says during your employment, you will be paid a base salary as 147K 680 as a base salary. So that was very good salary for a cybersecurity role. And I was working 100% remote. I was right there from home, working in a very low cost of living area. So that's one thing there. And also I want to point you down to where it says, in addition, you will receive a 5K one-time sign-on bonus. So those sign-on bonuses come. I had negotiated that because I said I wanted 150K. They went even beyond that, right? Where the total compensation for that first year was 152K 680. So this was the role that I got, right? This is the role that I got. I negotiated, I skilled up and everything, and I applied, and I was able to get this particular role. Not only that, it wasn't contract or anything, so this came with all types of benefits. I had healthcare benefits, as it says at the bottom paragraph, the 401k plan, 30 days, after 30 days of service. So after I was there 30 days, I would be eligible for the 401k plan. And also I had paid time off in the form of 15 days per year, which is around three weeks or so, or actually 3 weeks of working weeks. So this is my offer. This is 150K. A lot of people would look at this and say, wow, you have made it. This is the role for you. I can work this job for the rest of your life, or you can work this job for the rest of your life. And that's what I thought. You know, me and my wife, we were very ecstatic about me getting this offer. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of long nights of studying and certifications and schooling, and I was able to get this. But I ended up quitting. I ended up quitting this particular role, and that's what I want this video to be about. I want to tell you about the lessons that I learned from quitting. So I, at times, write little notes and whatnot inside of this, kind of like a little journal or something. So I kind of write my notes and my thoughts. So let me start from the top about the lessons that I learned from quitting. And again, like I mentioned, this is a big struggle of mine. So starting with the first one, it says, I learned not to accept broken career promises. So when I first came into that particular organization, there were some career promises that were made to me. As you see, I'm very vocal. I'm in your face kind of at times. I talk with my hands. I verbalize my thoughts and ideas well. I present well. And with this role, I was not given the opportunity to do a lot of that. But there were promises for me to be able to do that in the form of we putting out a professional services portfolio. But that never came to fruition. I mean, I was with this organization for a year plus, and every time I brought up this particular concern of mine, it would always be returned with some, that's not the priority right now. Or I know you want to do that, but you got to do this first. And over a year of this, after when I was coming in, they said they wanted to do this particular thing. And over time, I saw that thing was never coming into fruition. I had to make I really had to make a choice whether to accept that or to not accept it. And eventually, of course, when I left, I pretty much voted with my feet and I didn't accept it. The second one I want to talk about is I learned to unapologetically move on. You know, I think a lot of times we have conversations and we have relationships within the work environment. You know, people almost become your friends, right? You're working there 8 hours, even though we were remote. We had a lot of interaction. Me with my teammates, with my direct manager, you almost become like a little family. But the thing about it is that you aren't a family, but these are people who are your business associates. These are your peers, right? So, and I think that was one of the biggest struggles of mine is separating those friends, those work family people in my actual life. So that was one of the struggles, is to move on unapologetically and really recognize that, hey, this is business. This is business at the end of the day. We're there to work. We're there to produce an output of work, and to not get so wrapped up in all of the relationships, because I think at times that can hold us back from moving on from opportunities that are not serving us. So that's the second lesson that I learned. And the third lesson I learned is that I learned to embrace growth. So like I mentioned, when I left one organization, I went to a new organization, and there I was given different responsibilities. And these responsibilities were much higher than that of where I was previously, the place that I left. So I had to embrace it, right? Because this is what I was asking for. I said I wanted to do this. I wanted to go more into professional services. I became a cybersecurity senior consultant. And in that role, I had a lot of different requirements for job functions. Have you ever been on a solo penetration test? It was literally like me, my computer or my laptop, the customer, and the internet, right? Talk about intimidating. Talk about intimidating. And pretty much what you need to do, what I was required to do in that situation, was find all the vulnerabilities in this organization and to be able to produce a report. Now, this was solo. This was all by myself. So before, I didn't have those type of constraints. I didn't have those type of responsibilities, but I moved on to a new role where I'm like, let me embrace this challenge. Let me go forward. Let me get better. And this solo pen test was one of my first type of, I guess, initiations into embracing the newness and the growth within my new organization. So those are the 3 lessons that I learned from quitting. But I don't want to just leave you there with those lessons, but I also want to move on and give you advice that I was able to get, or advice that I would like to give you in order to help you with that transition if you are considering quitting, right? The first one I would say is to rationalize your insecurities. So before I left that organization, there were all types of people talking to me, telling me, hey, you know, the first one was, you don't want to be seen as a job hopper. I'm like, job hopper? What does that mean? You know, people were kind of telling me about what that meant, that you don't want a bad reputation of going from job to job to job, place to place to place. And I had to try to understand that, right? I had to rationalize that. What does that really mean? And did that apply to me? Another one is that some people were telling me that this is an unstable cybersecurity market. You know, people were just saying stuff, right? Kind of saying stuff to keep me in the same place. It's an unstable cybersecurity market. In tech, you know, there's all these trends. And right now the trend in cybersecurity, that was the furthest from the truth, right? As you all can see from the news, cybersecurity skill sets in the cybersecurity market has been growing and booming over time. So again, I needed to rationalize that. What did that really mean? And probably the last one was that people were telling me, like, you're gonna price yourself out of the market. For that role, it was for 150K, right? And they were saying, you can't really go too much further beyond that. Like, you can't expect somebody to compensate you even more. And they were wrong again. 3 strikes down, you're out. I was compensated even more in that follow-up role than I was in that 150K role. So it's like, these things you need to rationalize, right? People, all types of people might be saying stuff to you. All types of people might be trying to keep you in the same place with all types of insecurities, or actually their own insecurities in many cases. Don't let other people's insecurities stop you from moving on and progressing in your roles within your career. So don't let that happen. So that's the first one. That's the advice. Rationalize your insecurities. The second one is acquire skills that are in demand within your industry. I did a lot of self-skilling up, right? So before I had got to my last role, or a role, actually 2 roles before that, I recognized that I had gaps in my skills. I didn't really have a good understanding of offensive cybersecurity. So I self-studied for the CEH, or the Certified Ethical Hacker certification, kind of more like an entry level. Some people think of it as a mid-level, but it kind of just tells you about a lot of the vulnerabilities and offensive cybersecurity practices. And that really gave me a very good base in being able to get the role and start doing more of offensive cybersecurity. So I think that that's one that's very important, is to find your skills, find what those skill gaps are for those roles that you want to go towards, and really skill up to the point in which you have high demand skills in your market. Specifically, my specification is industrial control systems and operational technology, or ICS and OT. So this is cybersecurity for industrial environments, manufacturing environments, whether oil and gas plants, as I mentioned before, also the nuclear plants, all these places. So cybersecurity in those areas is in high demand. I mean, just think Colonial Pipeline, right? That was a big cybersecurity hack where industrial control systems, cybersecurity expertise was needed. So I say all that to say, find those in-demand skills and latch on to them. Find what your gaps are and fill those skill gaps and those knowledge gaps that you have. That's another piece of advice. And third is really, risk is a part of the game. Many people think that you can progress and go far without risk or without taking risk. Me quitting was a risk. You know, all those things that I mentioned that people were filling my mind with, those insecurities, those ideas that you can't, they were filling my mind with that. And that was at times germinating, right? It was fusing into my thought process, getting into my nerves and everything, right? And I was thinking that, hey, maybe these people are right. But at the end of the day, I had to take a risk. I had to make a decision for myself, take that risk. And I would love to say, and I would like to present to you, that quitting allowed me to progress. Quitting allowed me to go further. Taking that risk allowed me to get to the point in which I'm at today. And it allowed me to progress beyond other individuals' expectations and beyond any of those insecurities that people were placing into my mind. Because, and I was having a conversation with my wife about this, is that not taking risk will literally paralyze you. It will leave you in a state of static. You will be in a static position and not progress and move further as you desire to go. So risk is a part of the game. And I want to present a good resource. It's called the Zurich Axioms, the rules of risk and rewards used by generations of Swiss bankers, right? Kind of weird or whatnot, but it goes over this whole idea of risk and reward. And like I said, risk is a part of the game. So those are the things that I learned from quitting. First is I learned not to accept broken career promises. I learned to unapologetically move on, and I learned to embrace growth. And really the biggest thing, probably the last thing that I just mentioned, is that risk is a part of the game. Take risks to get to where you desire to go, even if it is quitting a $150K cybersecurity role. Hopefully this has been valuable to you, and come back again, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll get more and more content around this. I'll tell you more of my struggles. There'll be a time where I'll tell you more, or you'll tell me more about your own struggles. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thanks, come back again. Normalizing struggling in cybersecurity. All right, talk to you on the next one.